Welcome to our podcast show from Code to Check-in at Booking.com. My name is Ali. I'm an engineering manager at AI and machine learning platform, leading multiple teams of software engineers, ML engineers. I have brilliant people around me today. I have Pranav, Bashak, and Tadeo. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Pranav, I'm director of product for our machine learning and AI teams. My team does a bunch of cool stuff that we'll get into soon. But first, Bashak.
Thanks, Pranav. Hi, everyone. I'm Bashak. I'm a machine learning engineer at the same team as Alibek, AI and ML platform. My role involves building tools and services for ML capabilities within Booking.
Thanks, Bashak. I'm Tadeo, and I look after a track called Collaboration and Productivity. I've been with Booking for almost 10 years now, and my team is responsible for the enterprise tools that we use at Booking.com to be productive.
Before we dive into nitty-gritty details, I wanted to ask you a really broader question. What are you excited about AI the most? What is the next big thing for you, maybe now or in near future?
I like how this answer changes depending on the month that you ask the question. I don't know, as of recording this podcast, the Claude bot / then the Molt bot, then now it's OpenClaw or whatever new name it takes by the time we're done with showing this podcast. That's super exciting because that's a really good step up for AI in general, actually doing things rather than just having conversations, being able to do things on behalf of me. I think that's the one that I'm most excited about because it has just new capabilities, a whole new world unlocked, that sort of stuff. That's what I'm excited about.
I think the next big thing is the shift of how we look at AI. It is still a cool thing to use, to implement, but at some point it will become such a boring and redundant thing. It's going to be super reliable to use without even thinking. It's going to be search bar is going to be like Wi-Fi. You don't even think about it when you use it, but it's a chaos if it breaks.
It's so tied to what I'm responsible for in the organization. Everything is expected to be water from the tap, and it just works, right? I think interfaces in general are going to, in my opinion, change radically, especially with really, really good voice AI. I believe that once you almost don't feel like you're talking to an AI or a machine, I think this is going to really, really break a lot of barriers, and I'm really looking forward to that. There are quite a few pretty cool, research previews that you can play with, and I'm just eager to implement that in the enterprise setting.
I don't know about dishwashers, but I have a robot claw at home that pours my drinks, so we're getting there.
Oh, really? What kind of drinks are those?
Anything you want.
I would be very happy if it can iron my shirts.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the waiting list for that.
Yeah, I do second the voice modes. I think that one is still not fully cracked, but we do see a lot of positive signals and the traction, right? In my personal experience, it's still sometimes frustrating. You ask some questions and it's not too precise when the response, and you're like, no, that's not what I wanted. I mean this and that and that, and then it's takes time to process and do some research. Guys, I wanted to make one more step back into not so recent history, when LLMs became really big. What actually caused this skyrocket? What made AI take off so much? Because it's not new, right? It's been around for generations, but it wasn't as hot. What made it hot?
I think you and I were doing AI 8 years ago at Booking, right? So it is really that old. But I think what changed with LLMs is my grandmom can use ChatGPT. She can't use a ranking model or understand a ranking model. So it just became such accessible tech that everyone gets and everyone gets to play with and to build with for themselves. That came out of the tiny algorithms that we used to write that were behind large UX fronts to just, here's AI, go use it. And now everyone suddenly has just the access to the tech and sees how magical it is. I think that's what changed the excitement in the general public, the adoption in the general public as well. That, other than the fact that you don't need to have a degree in computer science to be able to play with AI, I think that was a big step change.
And the fact that infrastructure for distribution was there, I think helped that a lot. Right?
Exactly.
Everyone had mobile devices, everyone had internet access. So it was a matter of installing the app.
Yeah.
And there you go, you have it. Yeah. Bashak, what do you think?
Well, large language models existed for over a decade. It was very primitive statistic models, and later transformers were emerged. This is 2017 we're talking about. The architecture was there. I think the big shift happened because one day a research lab decided to scrape enormous amount of data from internet without thinking how much it would cost, trained a transformer-based architecture for days, weeks, maybe months. And then it basically created the first conservative model, which we call it GPT now, the earlier versions of GPT. So the technology was there, the architectures, we had GPUs, we had big data, but combining all these existing technologies was probably the big movement that made the LLMs a hype now.
So like taking a couple of different ingredients,
definitely
mixing them together.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have the hardware improved, if we didn't have GPUs, TPUs, we wouldn't be able to train these models. If we didn't have the technology to scrape all these data from internet, from all different sources, we wouldn't be able to train these models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You touched upon TPUs. I think it's really interesting as well, right? Like we see the rise of these dedicated hardwares that can be really efficient, not kind of general purpose GPU, but really tailored, right? Like with what we see with Grok, that was acquired by NVIDIA themselves. Google has their own thing, Amazon, and I think recently even Microsoft announced they have their own AI chips, Maya, I think it's called, which is really interesting to see. Gen AI and connected trip. Pranav, I'm looking at you. What's up? Gen AI, how do we use it?
Okay, so
in product specifically.
Okay, I've said before, right? Like my grandmom can use ChatGPT,
yes.
And the first thing that anyone who can use the tech now wants to do is plan something complex. Plan a trip, make it happen. Where should I go? Where should I stay? With whom should I what restaurants, what fits in my taste, so on and so forth, right? I think we as a company are different from just a generic LLM provider in the sense that we actually have the supply and the pricing and the understanding and the know-how of how travel actually happens. So when you combine the tech with our domain knowledge and expertise of how travel happens, we can create like really magical experiences. Mm-hmm. One of the things we've wanted to do for the longest time is to actually generate itineraries and have them completely bookable on Booking. But that generating itineraries problem was such a difficult problem before LLMs came in that we were not able to solve it, right? Mm-hmm. And now we have this new tool. We can do a lot of the planning and the thinking and the where to go, when to go for the customer. We can do it in natural language. We can do it in a way that they understand. We can preserve massive amounts of context on what has happened because we're doing all of this in natural language, and that ultimately leads to just being able to manifest that connected trip, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of others are trying as well. Google's actively working on trips. Like you watch any AI demo, it's going to be about travel.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And if everyone else in the world can do travel, we can do travel better. Yeah. So that's what it means for the connected trip. We have a new tool. We have the expertise. Let's build a really good experience.
Yeah, maybe guys, you can share how you used, if you did, I'm sure you did, AI for your most recent trip.
I always use AI for trips now.
For everything.
Actually, yeah, for everything. I think for ideation is one of my, best go-to tools. Back in the day, you used to talk to people to have ideas. I still talk to people to have ideas, but I think I don't start with zero from nothing. I normally go to, pick your AI assistant, right? And ask questions about itinerary. I have 2 kids and I'm going to London. What are the things to do on a Sunday with kids? And then you have a ton of ideas, and you're normally like, okay, this one makes no sense. This one's amazing, and then you get into that one, and you go a level deeper, right? It'll be amazing whenever it's all connected within one place and one app, and then we can actually have all this experience together.
Because you can actually tell this AI, what is your preference? What is your personalized way of traveling? Because you can't tell this to a friend. The friend will give you the subjective opinion. Definitely do this, Bashak, but maybe I won't like it. Mm-hmm.
So the judgment, right? Why are you doing this?
Yes. Oh, there is an amazing hiking space, but I hate it.
They do like hiking, right? And yeah, that's the beauty about AI. It kind of tailors the results to you yourself based on the signals that it has been collecting about you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But we could collect those signals earlier as well, right? Like, what do you think has changed? Like, we did have all those like footprints, let's say, like actions and like all the big data.
So I don't think so, right? Like, think about the booking search bar. Without Gen AI, like our search bar from 3 years ago was type in a location, type in the dates, and select things in filters, right? And that gives us a very limited window into how your trip is going to be planned. And then the first experiment we did was put in free text whatever you want, right? And the insights that came out of that, for example, like a lot of our customers basically wanted hot tubs. And we had no idea, right? Like top query on the little filter search box was hot tubs.
The smart filters.
The smart filters, yeah, exactly. And those filters like did exist at some point. We didn't look at them because who thinks that hot tubs is the most important for travel, right? But then you surface those back and you see so many people using it that where we previously had a bias of like, this is what we think is important, and therefore that confirmation turns into like, okay, this is what customers are using, and that gets us into a static state. But then when you open up customers to a conversation, you start to see things that you were not able to see before, or you were not able to capture out of clicks, right? So I think that's the big value add. Like they're not constrained by what we can and cannot do anymore, so they're telling us a lot more that we didn't know before.
Yeah. No, absolutely agree. I think that feature was one of the pioneers, right? That is like revenue positive, that was bringing our actual monetary value as well, and like
Exactly
opened up our product in a way that we didn't actually think about.
And how do you think that this is going to evolve as a medium for a conversation with our customers? Do you think there's going to be like additional mediums that are going to, kind of bubble up all of this knowledge that normally people keep to themselves?
We have a lot of that data as well in all of the reviews that are left over by our customers, that the content that's being created by the hotels, like which you, as a human, you're not going to go through 1,000 reviews, but you're going to have questions about the hotel. And we have all of this information buried somewhere else. So we can just put that in conversation, right? Like if you go to the property page of Booking now, you scroll down a few scrolls, you'll see the property questions bot. And what it basically does is it pulls all of this information that's been left all over the place, and it answers the question for you. And it's really good at that. So there's a new depth to the way that our inventory can be explored as well. The kind of questions you can ask. It's not like, does the hotel have free parking? And then you see a checkbox that says free parking. Like, oh, how far is the parking from the hotel, and is it accessible? And all of those dimensions suddenly start to open up as well. Or just questions not about the parking, like, is the food actually as good as it looks? Yeah, you have an answer now.
And we can embed all that information, right? And be it accessible for AI in a native way, right? So that then you can actually build answers based on top of that.
Yep.
Are we moving away from classical search bar, or what it can become, in the near future?
I think we will always have the search bars. It's no longer a keywords, but more conversations. Like Amsterdam 2 nights now became, hey, I want to visit Amsterdam with my partner, and I want to stay in the city center with a vivid vibe. What do you suggest? So that became the search.
Or I have $200 and how can I spend my money?
Why not?
That I will answer for you. Very good at spending money.
But in a way, this is what Google does, right? When we used to Google pre-AI, let's say, right? That it gives you 10 blue links. Now there is like almost default experience that it's AI mode, right? So I think, Bashak, what you're saying, that we also see being reflected in other big tech products.
That's true.
I'm actually curious about like your experience on Glean, right? How is Booking using search?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a ton of opinion about that. So, well, I actually come from a background of search. Before Booking, I was working for a company and managing enterprise search, internal and external. And then I moved to Booking and I started to work with business application enterprise tools. And the first thing that I actually asked here when I joined was, oh, what is the search you guys use? And my boss at the time said, yeah, if you want to search for something in Google, go to Go Drive. Confluence, go to Confluence. So, oh, there's work to be done here, right? And Glean is actually the third enterprise search tool that we implement at Booking. And I think timing-wise, once we implemented, it was right after this, LLM boom, post ChatGPT hype and all that. And I always say that, this wave of AI is the best thing that happens to enterprise search. And once we started to realize that we had to do something about it, we created a sort of a small team, like a squad. We called it the GenAI squads. And we picked 3 initial tools that we're going to roll out to Booking. And the first one was, okay, enterprise search is the first tool we're going to focus on, because we see the value of finding information is so important, so high. Really finding information saves a lot of time, unlocks so many different opportunities. And fast forwards, now we have like 2 years-ish of implementation. We see a steady uptake. People definitely taking advantage of that. We have more than half of the population using on a weekly basis. So that's pretty good. Definitely almost 100, like 90% using, like if you pick the last 3 months, almost everyone has access at least. So
I'm personally so grateful, Tadeo, that you did this. I was part of the task force a few years ago, I think 2023, maybe 22. There was a task force to finally fix tech documentation. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we do that? Because there is such a fragmentation of mediums. You have certain things in Wiki, right? Like you have things in docs.booking.com, it's our internal portal. There are Google Docs, there are like workplace posts, you name it, and there is like tens of different sources. Good luck navigating that, right? But then now that you have this layer that is like overarching and like on top of these things, that you can have a conversation actually with it, right? That I think makes people a lot more productive. So
it's pretty scary as well, because it's like pulling the rug and seeing all the dirts underneath, right? Because you're basically overexposing the information. By the way, when you're talking about, searching for things within reviews, the first thing that comes to mind, is like, oh, what about the one review that maybe is not true, or maybe doesn't make a lot of sense? How can we actually protect the partners from something that might be there that is written that is not completely, accurate, right? How are we going to balance this, exposure? Because LLMs are going to just take that as inputs,
So this has been a problem before, right? Like one bad review on a property is terrible for them. And like if you're anything like me, you want to find the worst review possible just so you know what's the worst that can happen, right?
What is that 1-star review?
Yeah.
And I'm normally very skeptical as well about the worst review. I'm like, come on, maybe it can happen there, There's some bias.
Yeah, like it's just like, this is the worst that can happen if I stay in this program.
I can survive that.
Yeah. But yeah, like we've put in a lot of features to counter that, right? We give the property the ability to reply to reviews and so on and so forth. So when engineering the GenAI solution on top of it, I think it's important to carry that context forward, right? To know that a review can sometimes be from one customer in exceptional circumstances and the property has replied. So carrying that context forward in the LLM's reply and so on and so forth. And like that's why domain expertise comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's why we're so good at travel. That's why the same team that does the AI is not the same team that builds the customer experience, because there is a different facet and dimension to all of these problems. That's not just throw an LLM at it, right? A lot of the business domain and expertise actually come into building such a product.
Yeah, Pranav, I like that you touched upon the partners, right? That's our kind of second biggest part of the marketplace, right? Like we talked about search bar evolution, but that is primarily our travelers facing products, right? But there's a huge aspect that our partners are out there. What does it mean for them when that we have this like hyper personalization and like all these AI tools? What do you think it means for our partner side of things?
So we've had lots of conversations with partners on this, right? Small and big. We've talked to chains, we've talked to B&Bs and so on and so forth. They actually love participating in the ecosystem because it helps us best represent their property. Mm-hmm. Think of it this way, right? Like a 5-star luxury hotel doesn't really care if you advertise the fact that they have a hairdryer. But then a B&B that has a kitchen and the utensils in the kitchen and so on and so forth, which is very targeted for families, actually wants to exhibit all of those household daily necessary items, right? So when we can represent all of this for them, they're much happier. We also work a lot for specifically enhancing their property, how they can better reply to guests, how they can translate everything that the guests are saying and basically be ship-shape for the guests. So we've had generally very good positive reception from partners. The thing that took me by surprise was a lot of our partners are very leaned into the ecosystem. Like the number of times I've been asked, like, are you going to set up an MCP server for us is just so surprising, right? Because you don't expect it. And then they're like, no, we really want to lean in.
Wait, property wanted to have their dedicated MCP server to book their hotel?
They wanted an MCP interface between us and them, so that they can be more agentic when it comes to answering guest questions and putting in more information about their property and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
That's a very sophisticated demand from a partner.
Right? Exactly.
Very technical.
So surprising.
Yeah. Bashak, do you want to cover what do we have in regards to MCP servers? And like your team is very heavily involved in this, right?
Yeah, so we are from AI platform team, and we have different teams focusing on specific products. And since day one, we are adapting all the tools and frameworks, enabling all the models in the market through our gateway as a platform team. And the goal here is, so we have MCP server, we have tools, we can integrate any internal or external service into any LLM. And the goal here is we really want to make prototyping easier for our internal stakeholders. So we have ML teams with ML capability, but we also have other teams like domain-specific teams, which may or may not have the ML capability. They may not have ML scientists or engineers, but we wanted to also provide them a platform that they can prototype their ideas. So the whole the purpose here is to increase the velocity of prototyping and the use cases. We no longer need 3 weeks to test feasibility of an idea. If a domain-specific expert wants to try a reg on a Q&A of a property page, they can do it easily. They can prototype and see, hey, this works or this doesn't work. So I'm very grateful for the team and the speed that we have and the capability we provide to the entire organization.
And it's like really, to your credit, it's so easy, right? Like I have played around with so many of those and I haven't written a line of code in like 10 years, right? I can build a little bit of a RAG sort of an interface on top of the platform and it works and it tells me what is and isn't possible within the booking environment. I think like it's been really great having like a studio for teams to play around with, right?
I remember one of our senior product managers, she created an agent. Mm-hmm. And the moment when she deployed the agent and see it was working, the happiness in her face. And she posted, I built my first agent.
It's alive.
It's working. It's in production.
Yeah, that's true. Today, I want to pick your brain on MCP servers in the scope of corporate environment, in the enterprise environment. How do you see future, or actually maybe present, right? Like when it comes to having MCP servers, when it comes to employee experience, right? Like we obviously interact with different systems, right? But they might be kind of isolated in different like islands, right? Yeah. So can you share your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I mean, MCP is quite of a non-locker to integrations, but integration is not a new thing, right? I mean, we've been integrating system to system for a long time. I think that, well, especially booking, because we have this, we're not an ecosystem first organization. Like we pick and choose whatever is the best out there for our organization. So we are like a Google workspace shop with Zoom, with Glean, with Slack, and then all Miro and all of these things. I mean, you could potentially, let's just pick Microsoft or Google, and then they probably have most of the stuff. I think where MCP plays a role is that you can quickly, and because everyone's now embracing the standard, we can actually connect things to other things. And I'm seeing the movement of, developer experience, for instance, connecting to our internal knowledge. And we're pretty separate if you think about it. Like we're not leveraging for corporates use case, we're not leveraging maybe I studio your RAG systems, your agents solutions, because you're most focused on products. But like Miro connected to Glean is happening. Cody talking to Glean or talking to Google through MCP. These are movements that are definitely happening. But I think one thing that I believe, it's not just the connection between them. I think there's this, and we were talking earlier about this, right? There's this need for consistency between the conversations, like so that the conversation with your AI carries over. And I think we haven't fixed that. We haven't cracked the code there. It's not just us at Booking. It's these organizations, these third-party vendors. They have to figure out a way to standardize like memory sharing or on organization memory and signals, so that you have a way to contextualize all of the employee workflows and history and all that in one place.
That is very, very exciting to have such kind of enterprise memory, right? But yet I do realize myself that it's very, very difficult as well. And like retaining and maintaining and making sure it's reflected, like your actions are kind of encapsulating that. But what excites me a lot is that you can create an agent and give it a bunch of tools, and then it can figure out on its own, right? Like which one to use the best, wherever it is like the most relevant, and then it can accomplish this task. And like the richer ecosystem that you have, and like the more exposure to AI native ecosystem, then the more productive you can become, right? I want to switch gears a little bit into marketing aspect and like the creative stuff, right? So LLMs by nature can be very creative, right? Like depending the temperature that you configure, right? Like how controlled or the opposite you can do. Bashak, maybe you can share from technical perspective, like how do we ensure that it doesn't go wild?
I don't want to say prompt engineering. Does it become? I think it's definitely a great inspiration tool. I don't work in a creative domain in a sense that I don't produce artistic stuff or things that requires creativity. But I do think it does enable way more things. Perhaps in a marketing department, they can generate 10 ideas and then iterate on those. And we never start from a blank page anymore. Whatever we're building, whatever we're starting, we can actually start from a boilerplate, or we can start from some ideas. And it can also basically feed other ideas.
But how can we make sure it is safe, actually, and it is relevant to our reality, that it's not like just randomly hallucinating, it's like factually accurate?
But we do have systems for that, right? If I speak for the booking context, we have a lot of data sources, and we have technologies, we have designs that allows us to fetch the information into the context. So LLM cannot hallucinate. It's a model. It can generate an answer, but it cannot invent something for booking. So in our systems, when we utilize LLM to produce an idea, to come up with a new marketing strategy, or to implement a new feature in our systems, it needs the internal information. So we do fetch that using either internal searching tools or RAG systems, utilizing vector databases. So we need to feed that information into the LLM. We also have, on top of that, we have guardrail services. We have maybe post-generation checks. So we cannot let LLM invent for us. We can only let LLM use what information we have in our systems generate.
So it's also a little bit like what critical path the system is in, right? Like for things like, for example, property accommodation recommendations to our customers, we want to make sure that everything we offer actually comes from Booking, because then we verified it, we know that it exists, so on and so forth, right? Like, don't randomly make up a hotel, which was happening a lot. Like back in 2023, the LLMs were actually making up hotels. So our answer to that was, you know what, we're never going to ask the LLM for a recommendation. We're going to ask Booking's internal APIs for a recommendation. And then we use the LLM to kind of orchestrate that conversation. So we take that uncertainty out of the systems per se. The same for how we moderate, the same for how we generate replies to property questions, right? You were talking about like us having all of these guardrails and then the fact checking and then the evals. There's so many systems that just catch that. We rarely ever used unprocessed LLM response for anything that goes to our customers, right? But I also want to tell you, like, one of the first use cases of the studio was actually marketing. And it was our VP of PPC and Meta, Rob Seal. He was like, hey, this is really cool. I want to try it for generating PPC keywords. And then he and I had like an hour-long session where he was trying the tool and he was making those keywords himself. And he made like some doc with 5,000 keywords, talk to his team. There's a lot of excitement in marketing for this.
That's cool to hear. I just want to fill in the context for the audience. The studio we're talking about is basically the UI where people can prototype their Gen AI ideas. The UI we provide from our platform team.
Yeah.
But it's very cool to hear.
There's also some internal system that we created at Booking.com to review every single generative AI use before even reaches close to production. And although sometimes it slows a little bit down the process, in the long run, I think it's going to pay back, as you know, we're not launching things left and right without reviewing. We're really abiding by the rules. We're trying to be as safe as we can.
And we're doing it a lot faster nowadays than like two years ago, let's say.
Much faster, much faster.
1 week, I think, to the review.
Yeah, I think I don't know, there's the internal and the external one. Yeah, week and a half, something like that, average.
Yeah, my favorite from the recent things, or like maybe not so recent safety measures or like guardrails things, is what Google offers, as it's called maps grounding and web search grounding. So you can configure essentially like Gemini responses so that it first does the under the hood API call to Google Maps to verify the answer, and is it like factually true from Google Maps perspective, and only then respond back the same way for web search information. So,
but I do think we've invented a lot of these things before they became industry standard. Like, you know, there's like we were doing something like agents back in early 2024, right? Like with fetching from multiple APIs and orchestrating that conversation. The same with grounding, always fact-checking and so on and so forth. We had some degree of evals before evals were a platform offering per se.
That is true.
I think we've been ahead for a lot of these things.
I totally agree. I think like we're building these things like before, you know, it became, you know, like very.
I think it's actually a pretty cool call out. You know, I think because of the scale of Booking and how much visibility we have, the brand is pretty strong. The partners we work with, the labs, and they're so welcoming of our ideas and what we have been doing with AI, you know, that I feel like Booking.com has the ability to steer a little bit what these labs are actually doing and what the types of tools and how they're developing their tools. Like for definitely for internal products, we have quite a nice collaboration with all of the big companies that deliver that AI productivity for internal use cases. And I'm sure, you know, we have like pretty good OpenAI relationship, Google relationship, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing the OpenAI integration, it was pretty much a partnership, right? Like
co-building, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you see travel in ChatGPT? And then that was a question for us as much as for them, right? So getting into the drawing board, designing all of these solutions with people like OpenAI, that's been kind of defining for how AI evolves as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're also impacting their roadmap.
Absolutely. I think, I personally push them with quite some features like, hey, we need this, we need that.
But can you imagine how amazing, how like it's like a candy shop for them when they arrive here and they see the actual opportunity, because they're building thing. It's almost like they're researching and we're the applied sciences, right? We're applying the stuff to real life. You know, they don't have that. You know, they have more of the all of the ideas in the academia that they're trying to build some product, but they don't know which product necessarily they need to build, and we just bring the problem,
I think
for the soul to be.
That's actually the beauty of being part of company like Booking.com, where we are, on the business side of things, where people actually are using that for their own personal stuff, right? And actually, this is a nice segue to my next question about competitor threat. And if a startup with like zero legacy code that they're starting today, and they have, tens of millions, in their bank account, like funded by huge VCs, how do we make sure we're protected against, AI native, cloud native, whatever native startups? What is our, protection against this kind of, new things?
Travel is probably the most well protected in that sense, because at the end of the day, you're not selling a digital product, right? You're not selling media or entertainment or any of that. You actually have to go to a place in order to travel, which means you're moving from one place to another. There's a large operational component. There's a large supply component. We have relationships with our providers. We have relationships with our payment partners. And we actually have very deep relationship with our customers as well, right? There is a fulfillment aspect that doesn't go away because GenAI. Like, we know the actual hotel. We know how it works. We know how the industry works. That's a major advantage. I don't think a startup comes in and says, we're going to automate the act of you traveling with GenAI, right? Still got to move people. So I think that's a big advantage structurally for us. Other than that, just the fact that we have so many years of domain expertise in terms of how travel actually happens. What are the big constraints? What can go wrong? We have a customer service operations with thousands of people that make these trips happen. That's very difficult to replicate, regardless of whether you have GenAI or not. And I think that's a big competitive advantage.
I love that.
I think the way that I think about this is normally like, if you have a problem in your travel, do you want to rely on the one that you arrive at a hotel and it doesn't exist? Do you want to call someone? Well, that hotel that doesn't exist, you cannot call them, right? But I want to call Booking, say, hey, the hotel doesn't exist, and Booking is going to solve for that problem for me, right? So,
right.
Booking.com is not just the UI; it's also the whole operational in a big scale.
Yeah, that's a lot of people I think are not realizing. Like, oh, you're just building a website. No. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. I think, we're getting to an end. This was a fantastic conversation. I hope everyone watching us enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in. Keep the innovation spirit up, keep experimenting, and stay curious. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.